And again, I'd like to welcome you to the 2014 Global Automation and Manufacturing Summit, part of the Industrial Automation North America Pavilion at the 2014 International Manufacturing Technology Show. I have been writing that sentence for the last 2 years. We've been priming for this show for the last 2 years. The reason for that is that in writing, we have first reference. And on first reference, you want to make sure you spell out the name of the organization. Those are a lot of words. On second reference, however, you can use the initials. For the International Manufacturing Technology Show, of course, is a lot to say, but we just call it IMTS. Industrial automation can be pronounced INA, but we choose not to. We call it IANA. Then we come to the Global Automation and Manufacturing Summit. I'll let you put that in your head for a second. That's right, it spells GAMS. And there's only one image that we thought of, or at least I thought of, because that's the way my mind works, for describing that on second reference. And we have studiously avoided using GAMS as our acronym for this show, because that's the only image that we could come up with. And unfortunately, all of our presentations do have legs, but that's not really the image that we wanted to portray. So we thought about, what else could we call it? We could call it the International Automation and Manufacturing Summit, but the dog food people beat us to that name. We could call it Automation and Manufacturing. No, that's not going to work. Building Manufacturing Worldwide. No, that's already taken. Seeking Automation's Potential. One of our sponsors already took that one. So we are here. We're stuck with GAMS. And why? It's now our legacy. And we're pleased to have all of you here. And we're pleased once again to welcome our event sponsors, Molex, SAP, and IQ Agent, thanking them once again for their support. And while we're getting this presentation set up, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we came to our lunch and keynote speakers. Sometimes these are processes of evaluating presenters from all over the country and sometimes all over the world. In this particular case, I was sitting across from this gentleman at an event, a German-American Chamber of Commerce event last winter, and the story struck me as something that every manufacturer needs to hear, and every manufacturing operation needs to understand where Sur-Seal started, where they're at today, and most importantly, where they're headed. It's a great story, and I won't say anything more than that except to introduce Mick. He's a 22-year veteran in manufacturing, production management, lean processes, everything in between. He's the co-owner of Sur-Seal Corporation in Cincinnati. It was a very personal and business journey about 5 years ago, trying to come up with a variety of tools to meet the needs of the business. Mick's very involved in the community, serving on boards, and he works very aggressively with one of our partners, AME. He's taking on 2 new roles this year, president of the Great Lakes region for AME and senior advisor and board of directors for Sur-Seal. And they received the 2012 AME Excellence Award. We want to get the presentation up here and running, but once again, let me find if I can get the presentation up and running.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, Kristen, I'm trying to get the presentation up and running.
Good.
Okay, well then I will leave it to you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, Mick Wilz. Mick?
Thank you, thank you.
Good to see you.
And while she's getting this going, I don't know all the sponsors, but thank you very much for the wonderful lunch, and thanks for inviting me here. It's my honor. We're going to start with a video of my company, and then the talk afterwards will be about how we created this culture. Yeah, the video will go.
Sur-Seal was started in the early 60s by my father and 2 other partners. In the 80s and 90s, the ownership was transferred from my father to his 3 sons.
I'm glad she's up here with me right now. She showed me how to do this before. I would have been.
Sur-Seal was started in the early 60s by my father and 2.
She's going to save my day. I had two events in the last 10 days. I was at Notre Dame speaking, and we lost all power for my entire event, so I pulled that off. And yesterday I was up in Minneapolis at Medtronics, and halfway through my program, a lady passed out, and we had to call the life squad in. She's all right, low blood sugar, but I was hoping for nothing today. But
Two other partners. In the
we can go forward without it, but it's an important part. So we had it an hour ago, didn't we? We all have time. I can make this go quick, so hang in there. If you don't see the video, I won't have anything to speak about. Would it be, would you want to just turn off and reboot? See if it gets that connection back up. Oh, another one, make sure it didn't get unplugged on this side. Oh, that's looking good. Here we go.
80s and 90s, the ownership was transferred from my father to his three sons.
We'll restart it. Welcome, guys.
Sur-Seal was started in the early 60s by my father and two other partners. In the 80s and 90s, the ownership was transferred from my father to his three sons, myself, Marty, and Jim.
There's no intimidation. It's sort of like titles are checked at the door. You can walk up and talk to Mick, Marty, Jim, like it's just anybody in the building, and they listen to you.
In 2007, the company developed a new plan, and out of that plan were two results that I was in charge of working on. One was the engagement of the people, and one was making our plant a world-class manufacturing plant.
The investments that Sur-Seal have made in the people and the company have transformed this company. It's been amazing, especially in the last 5 years. We've been living the life of continuous improvement.
We do a lot with the lighting industry, the heating and air industry, the medical field.
Stay pretty fresh and always have another opportunity to look forward to.
We are a company that is very much in tune to our employees. They like being here. They like what we do. They like what we make. They like their environment.
It's a place you can grow, learn new things.
I love the hands-on.
I love what I do. I'm good at it.
I'm not gonna lie, I really do love my job.
It's really kind of a special company. I've been here for 26 years.
The old school manufacturing was about managing people. Nowadays, you lead people and you manage processes.
Our lean journey, snowball effect. It started from upper management down through certain individuals, and we kind of rolled out different processes.
I would say it's family-oriented.
We're all in this together. I mean, we all pull together as a team. We're one big team.
You have to find a seat on the bus for everybody. Everybody has value, and by leading them and coaching them, you inspire them, you spread the reward out.
I think this is a great place because people here do care about their job. And I don't just mean in the sense of, oh, I got to keep my job. They care about what they're doing.
We're all about our quality. We're all about our people, our quality of our parts, our customers pretty much.
An old saying that I used to hear that people are afraid of change. I found out that they're not afraid of change. They're afraid of uncertainty. And the only way I could get my vision across was with the use of Legos.
The Lego blocks, first it was, okay, why are we playing with the Legos?
The Lego model started with me sitting out there for a week by myself with a large group of blocks, and the employees thought I was going nuts. The owner lost it.
I really didn't know what he was doing. Can I play?
But then as we saw and we listened more to Mick and his vision of what he was wanting to do, it made sense.
We built a current state to show them what it was like Then we moved it around in teams and developed a future state.
People got very involved in that process, and when they got involved in it, they took ownership of the layout.
Where is everything gonna go? I was involved in that.
And now we're in the process of moving the plant into the future state that was designed by the people here.
Let's have some skinny Legos, you know? 'Cause I'm not the square body type. You know what I'm saying?
I felt like the company's been loyal to me. I've been happy here.
I just enjoy it. I really do enjoy my job.
What makes me feel great about this business is that the people on the floor are running the business now. It's not a numbers game, it's a people game now.
When I first started here, we had maybe a handful of local industrial OEM type accounts to today. We focus mainly on global OEM, so it's a big change.
It just has came so far. I just feel proud.
I mean, we've got a lot of operators that really care about their jobs, their positions, and the quality of the parts that they cut.
I look forward to coming to work. These people are my partners.
When we say we're a family, we mean it, because not only is it a family-owned business, here you get an opportunity to get to know the people that you work with.
I mean, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, but somehow those all mix together and try to make something better.
I do. I love this place. I really do. Yeah, I love this place.
And you're going to switch me over to the PowerPoint? How about give her a big round of applause for getting me going here? And you'll stick around for we have one more video at the end. I like videos, so that keeps people awake. Okay. Thank you. And, okay. Am I on the, yes, I'm on there. What I want to talk about today is how we created that culture. And it wasn't easy. Let me get going here. Before we go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Sur-Seal and what Sur-Seal is. Sur-Seal started out as a gasket manufacturer. We took care of just businesses in Cincinnati. Now we're known worldwide, and we focus on 4 different markets. And our specialty is material sealing right now, and we take care of 4 different markets. Heating and air conditioning, that's HVAC, the lighting industry, probably all these lights up here in these large buildings have our gaskets in them. We take care of medical, and we take care of industrial. That's a lot of food equipment. We have 175 people in our plant. We are on a journey to make our facility a world-class facility. And this is guided by the values of the organization and the family. And trust is the most important part of that. Your building trust is the most important part of it all. Then I'll give you a little bit of history of myself. I am co-owner of Sur-Seal. My brother is president. And I am director of enterprise excellence. I got to make up a nice fancy name, so that's the name I chose. I took over production in 1993. And when I took it over, my dad, there was another gentleman in charge, and my dad came up and shook my hand and said, I apologize if I offended anybody here, but he said, you're the new ass. All right, so in 1993, I got the new title, leader of production, and the way we ran the business was, you kind of shoved stuff down people's throat, and you got product out the door. But my dad was very, very innovative, and we were always leading the newest equipment and the greatest ideas. We were leaders in that. And I can remember him starting the business in 1965. We were in Toronto, Canada, and I was 9 years old. And he was up there for a IBM computer course in 1965. And that night he told us he opened up a new business, and we went out and got ice cream. So we'll be 50 years old next year. So I feel like I have not been with that business at all, but I've been there for my entire life. I'm 58 now. In 2012, we received the AME Manufacturing Excellence Award. And if you don't know what AME is, it's an Association for Manufacturing Excellence. They're based here in the United States, but they kind of go all around the world. But they give out awards that meet their standards once a year, just like Baldrige or a Shingo Prize. And we were honored with that in 2012. Shortly after that, the New York Times picked up our story, and we were the cover of the business section on January 31st, 2012. And that's probably what really got me started in the speaking part. I was just in manufacturing before, and when the New York Times article came out, you would not believe what goes through a New York Times article. They started writing that in September, and it was, edited, and phone calls and permission slips and photographers and everything. And she says, "Mick, are you ready for this?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" And she says, "Well, you're going to get bombarded with phone calls." And I really was not ready for it. My phone started ringing at 6 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day, and I got 300 emails and phone calls within the next week. Okay, so after we won that award, I thought I would give back to the organization that helped us. So I am now president of the Great Lakes region. I take care of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio for AME. I also teach a program around the country. It's titled Building Engagement Takes Teamwork. And I charge a small fee for that, but all the money I raise for that goes to a local women's shelter in Indiana. So if anybody's interested in contacting me, it's a one-day course, and it's based on the book Building or Engagement is Not Enough by Keith Ayers. He's an author from Australia, and I have the rights to use all the contents in his book. Okay, a little bit more about myself, just so you know who I am. As a child, I grew up with dyslexia, and everybody, the simple terms, you get words mixed up, and that's what I lived with, and I thought I had for 30 or 40 years of my life, but I actually went back and had myself retested, and it is not, I didn't have that. I was twice exceptional. I have a little bit higher IQ than the average person. It was not high, but my biggest strength is visual. The average person is 7 to 8% visual learning. I'm 70 to 80% visual. So I was a natural for lean manufacturing because everything you want to have a visual plant, everything I did was visual. And that's where the Legos and everything came from. During the 90s, lean manufacturing was driven by one of our top customers, and it was United Technologies. And to stay a certified vendor with them, we had to become ISO certified, and they wanted us to follow the lean practices. So that's where I learned all my knowledge. But back in them days, it was a little bit more, you had a group of engineers, and you would go in and change the plant around, and you didn't get input from the people. So I took the practices that I learned there. Things have changed. United Technology is a great company, and they're one of the top leaders in lean right now. But the method I learned was kind of more just a group of people getting around and changing processes. So I went back, and with my title that my dad gave me as being an ass, I went back to our plant, and I made our plant a lean manufacturing plant. And it was my way or the highway. And so for 8 years, I changed our plant totally, completely around. We became ISO certified, and we had a lean plant. But 10 years later, I stopped and looked over my shoulder, and every process that I created failed. And I had no one following me. So I had to take a deep look into myself if I wanted to continue what went wrong. Let me catch my breath here. So what I found out was I was living two different lives. at work, it was my inherited life, the life that I inherited from my father. And at home, I was living my created life. And they were, I could not stand going to work, but at home, I was the nicest guy in the neighborhood, and I won Citizen of the Year award, but at work, I was living a totally different life. So I had to reinvent myself, and this process took me 4 years to change. But the part that I found out was that I was missing the people part at work. There's 3 processes you got to manage at work, and it's people, product, and process. At work, I was only working on product and process, all right? So here are some of the lessons that I learned. And I already went over the first one, the people, product, and process part. Now, the people part is the only part that I work on. When you were in the 90s, I thought I knew everything. And now, you know nothing. When you get 150 people together to create a plant, it is so powerful to see what input you get from 150 people instead of just 1 or 2 people. You need to find a seat on the bus for everybody, and they need to fit your culture. Not everybody's going to fit it. You can really, if you work hard, you can find a seat for a lot of people, but realistically, there's going to be a couple people that don't fit your culture, and you move them on in a polite manner. But we did real good at trying to find a seat on the bus for everybody. Now we hire hard and manage easy. That's a term that Southwest Airlines uses. Hire hard and manage easy. So we take a lot more time in hiring and making sure that the person we hire is fitting our culture. And engagement needs to come from your heart. You really have to believe in it. And if anybody says, a lot of auditors and they'll come around and say, how engaged is your team? And what metrics are you using? And you cannot measure engagement, and don't try it. And I'll go back to, if I went home to my wife and said, I'm going to start measuring how much you love me, that'd be a very disengaging task you would be working on. So it's the exact same thing. You cannot measure engagement. But what we do is we track our hours, the gross profit divided by the hours that the people are working in the plant. And when we started this process, each employee was generating about $70 to $75 an hour for each person. Now it's well over $135 an hour. So the benefits of changing to a people-based culture has really paid off. And I kind of already talked about that. With this in line, everything else comes natural. You don't have to worry about the process and the product part of it. The other big one that I found, everybody said that people are afraid of change. They won't change. And I heard all them jokes and that the only person that is not afraid of change is a wet baby. I totally disagree with that now, and I have this quote here that I came up with. People are not afraid of change, they're afraid of uncertainty. And as a leader, you need to remove that. And the reason nobody was following me during the 90s is because they didn't see the path I was going, and they were uncertain about their future. But the minute they could see the change, they followed. They became your followers. And one of the many tools that I used to remove the uncertainty is the Lego model. And once you're laying out a plant, most people, and I think I'm with a group of engineers, so I apologize if I offend you guys, but most of them start with a CAD drawing. They laid it out, so they have an assumption already of how it's going to go. You bring it out to a group of people. If you'd offer to the whole plant, about 10 people would understand it. So the whole plant can't get input into it. So they would give input. The input would go right back to the CAD guy again. One guy, he would go back and try changing it, but You'd come back, oh, that didn't fit, so I moved it wherever I want it to. So you're really getting the opinion of one person. I did not want that to happen with the layout of our plan. It was too critical. And we were a job shop. When we got a piece of equipment in, we just put it wherever it was. We got orders out and we just ran them, whatever equipment it had to run on. To stay in business, we had to change to cellular manufacturing. And so the Lego model was a way of me teaching flow. But on the top, the glass sheet, below, we built that first. That was current state. And everybody was involved with it. And they actually got to pick their body and put it next to the press so they know who's standing next to it. On top was the future state. And that we started laying it out and dreaming about how it was going to be moved. Then came the future state. It took us 3 years to move it, and we are now completely into the future state. But this is, when you're on a lean journey or a world-class journey, that journey should never, never end. It's a journey with no ending. So we are constantly changing and improving our processes. One interesting thing that came out of this, a term you hear, especially when there's a problem, is everybody's responsible for quality. You know, you had a big rejection. Everybody's responsible for quality. What were you doing? And you go, you know, that's just a way to shut people down. What does that mean? What are you responsible for? And by accident, with this Legos, you see the three different colors, the blue aisle, the yellow, and the green. We came up with our quality system. The blue aisle is the back aisle where material is delivered, and they are responsible for the material getting delivered to the process, and they're also responsible for the tooling. The yellow teams in the center, that's where the product is produced, and they're responsible for training and processes, making sure the product is manufactured correctly. If you mix blue and yellow together, that makes green, your old primary colors. Green is quality for the customers. Only finished products are in the green aisles, and they're checking for labels and they're making sure that the right product is going out to the customer. The blue aisles are forklift aisles, no people. The green aisles are people, no forklifts. Everybody in our building knows what they're responsible for. This little triangle here should be on everybody's meeting table around the world. This is on our meeting table. And when you're having a meeting, most meetings are, if you get down to the basics of a meeting, they're about a new product or a process that went wrong. That, you know, there's nothing else to talk about. So I'm going to use a new product for an example. We're getting a new product and we have an hour-long meeting and all the executives are there. You flip it and they go, how are we going to manufacture it? How it's going to be the process? Okay? That's usually where the conversation stops. Ours, we flip it for next time and we go, what do we have to tell the people? What kind of people do we have to get involved? What kind of training do we need? So I would encourage, this is a gift I'm giving you to take home with you. Go build one of them blocks, and that should be on every meeting table around the world. I have my phone number on there. I have developed guiding principles for each one of them areas. And if you want to, if you text me your email address, I will send these to you. But I'm going to just go over a quick little list of these. I won't cover them all. When we're in a meeting, and these are guiding principles, these are just short little piece of wisdom that I have gathered over time. But the people part of it, lead by example. Build everything on a foundation of trust. Hire hard, lead easy. Create a culture where it is okay to be different. A lot of people don't want people to think. Teach what right looks like. Remove uncertainty. Communicate clearly. Make work meaningful. And then the biggest one is celebrate. Celebrate the the changes you're making. My next guiding principle is for processes. I'll read off a couple of them. Safety comes first. Safety comes before the customers by far. Gather input from all stakeholders. Lead people, manage processes. Eliminate waste. Capture tribal knowledge. Measure progress. Understand true cost, and end the blame game. And then my final one is new product development or product. There is a way to do everything better, find it. That's a quote from Thomas Edison. Strive to understand what is really needed. Listen to the voice of the customer. Involve the suppliers. Don't make them your enemies. Be a leader in the industry, not a follower. Don't be afraid to say no. Build quality and process into every product. Strive to make the customer brag about you. That's the biggest sales tool you can have, and that's what we're doing by reaching out at these types of events. You want your customers to brag about you. We're close to ending, but before I go, there's going to be one more video, but I can describe a business. Most businesses are all piled up and jumbled up like this chain here. What we did was straighten it out one link at a time. It's built on a foundation of trust and our values that are in top. My role and my brother's role right now are, if it gets out of whack a little bit, you got a quality problem, we go back and then straighten it out. But we got good people here that can make these changes for us. So our biggest thing is to keep the chain straight. And you don't want to push the people. There's always saying you got to push and pull. If you push them, it all gets jumbled up again. And if you pull it, you're going to lose people at the bottom. As a leader, you want to keep the chain straight. All right? He's taking a photo there. I'll let him get one. Thank you. Here are some of the key things to keep your chain straight. You got to have your mission and values, the family. You have the mission and values of the organization. Link everything to the strategy. Safety first. How to keep it sustainable. We have a very unique way of keeping our system sustainable. That should be the first question you ask. We give tours of our plant, and we turned our facility into a learning facility for other organizations and businesses. We give probably 3 or 4 tours a month. And it's like grandma coming. We have to have our processes all in line at all times because we have guests coming. Don't be afraid to say no. Lead, manage people, keep the chain straight. Don't push and pull. I went over most of that. Before the video, I want to review this quote by Steve Jobs. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. The approach has never let me down, and it makes all the difference in my life. What he is saying, he can connect the dots of his stories. He knows when he invented the first computer. He knows when he invented the iPhone, and he can connect the dots between them. Going forward, it's just a guess for anybody. You get a strategic plan. You cannot connect dots. You just have to hope that you'll get there. How would you rather connect your dots? Would you rather have it all jumbled up like this, or would you rather have everything straight and trying to connect your dots on the top up there? I have one more video to show you, and let's hope that I can do this. And that will end my program for today, and we can go to some questions. Are you going to help me? Okay, this video is about leadership, and leadership is overrated. What a leader has to do is find a first follower. And when I started these processes, I found a first follower. And this is a great video that shows you how leadership is really rolled out. Enjoy.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional.
That
This
was when
is
I was
key.
building
You
my
must
Legos.
be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. See, it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
That's it. And that, I hate to say it, but that is 100% the way my process took forward. Somebody told me to find a first follower. Nobody would listen to me, and I needed a first follower to start my journey. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mick. I'm sure we've got some questions, and I want to make sure we entertain as many of them as we can. I wanted to start with something that you said to me when we did the interview a few months ago as we were getting ready for this, and that was that was very much about leadership. You turned around one day and there was nobody following you. And to me, that was probably the most powerful statement I've ever heard about leadership, in that leaders tend to look in one direction and not back sometimes, and those are generally ineffective leaders. So can you talk a little bit more about that? It sounded as much cathartic for you as practical from a business standpoint.
Yeah, and Bob wrote this great article for me in this magazine about me. He came visit my plant. How about a round of applause for Bob for me here? Okay. No, it was, and I forgot this part, I told the cameraman before, nobody was following me. The biggest thing you got to do is get down off your high horse, and you got to get down there with the people. And manufacturing offices should not be in an office. You should be out there with the people where your product is being developed. And you know, I had an office, and I was designing, dreaming things, but I was not down there with the people. Bob, that answer your question?
Absolutely. What are the questions that we had? Right over here.
I have a question about your Lego system. Were there other tools that you use, like value stream mapping or anything also put some data with what you're doing with Legos?
Yes, all kind of the value stream mapping. These each cell is divided, and we have the square foot map. But the biggest thing is a distance traveled map, and each cell was developed with a distance traveled map. And now each cell, you might have 8, 10 people working it. They're empowered to change anything within that cell that improves the distance traveled map.
So was this done in the context of events that you put together a team to do, or how did you structure the people to have them involved?
It started with receiving to shipping. We drew a straight line between them to the shortest distance there. And then we went cell by cell. And in each cell, we cleaned the floor, and we actually had a breakfast ceremony. The floor was so clean we could eat on it, so we would have a ceremony on the floor to break off this new cell. Their cell would be right next to it, and they'd be moving into this next one, so it was like a chain reaction. So this is your area. Most of them some of them might have been 8,000 square feet. We were moving them down to 3,000. You got to fit everything into that cell. But it started off with an event. And we have 4% of our workforce is dedicated to continuous improvement. And we have one, so it's a whole team that comes in. One does the heavy moving. One comes in and builds the tables and that kind of thing. And then one comes in, does all the labeling. The other person comes in and won't leave until it's sustainable.
So the first step was to build the current state of exactly the way your plant looked in Legos.
Yep.
And then little by little you changed it to where it was a lot more visual than a drawing.
Yep.
Okay.
I got in trouble from my CEO. It's $6,000 worth of Legos there, but but it was worth it. Got me in the New York Times.
Yeah, the extra cost was getting the little people. The Legos themselves are.
I just went there I was at the Lego store on Michigan yesterday, and I spent $300 on people. They were sick of the people. They wanted new ones, so I had to spend $300 on people.
Yeah, the Lego movie screwed everything up. Questions?
Right in front of you here? Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Forgive me if I missed this, if you said it already, but you were talking about you were living these kind of dual lives at home where you're the nice guy and at work. Was there like a seminal event where maybe it was an interaction with someone at the company where you realized that you had these two different things going on? Or I mean, what woke you up to that?
Shortly after my father stepped out of the business and we took it over, and so me and my two brothers took it over, and it was shortly after that. I don't know what caused it, but my brother wanted to have the first strategic plan, and so we were a company without strategic plan. We sat down. It was an event run by the Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce, a strategic plan, and I didn't have anybody follow me, so it was probably the strategic plan that I wasn't prepared for it. All right. Any other questions?
I'll offer one more. The video talked about the first adopters and then everybody following, and can you talk a little bit about those people who haven't gotten up and danced yet, or who throughout this process wouldn't get up and dance? How do you, in the midst of change, how do you deal with those not ready or unwilling to change?
And the biggest one is get off the high horse and share the reward. Make sure that the story is not all about you. And when Bob came to my place, Bob came for a story, and I said, Bob, I don't want you to write about me. I want you to write about the people. And Bob wrote about the people instead of me. I'm just the leader in the background. But I found this video after the fact, but I had a coach that told me I needed a first follower, and he picked the person out. And he goes, you got a maintenance guy. He knows everybody in the building. He gets along. He's working on the press, and he keep him going. I said, don't pick Steve. We don't get along. We were just total different opposite. And he goes, Mick, you got to have Steve. And so I write stories about Steve, and he runs our lean initiative right now, and we worked out every difference we had, and he is running the plant for me right now. So I brought a person on board. It was not my picking, and somebody else picked it, but somebody else was just looking over my shoulder and said he was the right person to work beside me.
I think the other thing that I noticed during the tour is that if you've created kind of an unstructured process for people to be able to set up their own workspaces, their own color schemes in a few places, and out of that kind of unstructured environment has come structure, but not from the top down. It's come from the people working in those cells or working in those areas. I was struck by the one area where, and I didn't mention this in the story, but the one area where the women have all decorated this one particular cell in pink, with curtains on the windows in what is essentially a block building. But they've got curtains on there, and that's their environment, and they chose that.
Yeah, and everything had to be color coded, just common color coded. But this team here wanted to make theirs pink, and they had a window, and they decorated it. And she actually brings she brings a pie in that she'll share, and she sits it on the windowsill, so it looks like her kitchen at home. And how they can make these changes, you were talking about the distance traveled map. If they have something they want to change within their cell, we have a company visa, and it's sitting there. It's for their disposal, and it's never been abused. But an individual could go take that card and go to Lowe's and buy a $200 drill that he needs in the production. But our teams are so well engaged that it's a team group. And they, 8, 10 people, man, this process would work much better if we had a new cordless drill with a super clutch or something. And they can just go down the street and spend, buy that drill. We have a girl that's in Lowe's just 3 or 4 times a day buying new stuff, and Lowe's goes, where is all this stuff going? And so Lowe's came over and did a tour of our plant. But because that's how you shut somebody down. You go, oh, I need a new drill. Oh, I'll review it and get it in 2 weeks. That person is disengaged immediately. If you can empower him to go get that engagement, all your problems are solved.
And along the same lines, talk about your parts crib along the back wall there. It is, there are a lot of manufacturing plants where you swipe a card and press a number, and it's tied to your employee ID. Yours is a little different.
Yeah. Ours is it's honor system. They can come in and take what they want, and it's very well respected. And it has high and low watermarks. So if they take a can of blue spray paint and we need it 6, it's a reorder point. But it's total honor system. Everybody takes super good care of it. It has everything you need in the building, from the parts for repairs to safety gowns and gloves. But Grainger has came in and adopted ours, and they maintain our system for us. No, not Grainger just comes in and fills up to the levels that we need.
Any other questions for Mick? Yeah, right here.
And everybody's welcome. If you're in Cincinnati, look me up for a tour.
So I guess you talk a lot about cells. In my industry, it's a little bit more, it's things instead of being separated by cells, and that makes a team, it's shifts. I'm curious, and maybe you have kind of analogous situation. How do you kind of...
Did you say shifts?
Shifts, yeah. So first shift does
second
this,
shift, yep.
Yeah. I see more, there's like almost a sense of competition, and one shift is kind of, ragging on the other shift. It sounds like you have a lot more camaraderie. How have you fostered that?
A lot of it goes back to good values, and that if you have a good culture, the culture should, and I'll use Toyota for an example. Toyota, they can bring somebody new in, and the culture is not going to shift. Night shift, it's what's happening is the leader is driving it. The leadership is not connected together with the values and the same things, because the night shift guy has one culture, day shift guy has another culture. My job at keeping that chain straight is to make sure that nobody changes the culture. That's probably my biggest job there. Does that make sense? Yeah. We ought to be able to put a new person in that line, and it's going to run the same. It's not going to be his way. It's going to be the culture's way. That's probably the biggest task we got. Good question.
Anybody else? Well, Mick, I want to thank you so much for making the long, perilous journey down here. It's been an entertaining travel day for you on top of everything else. Great presentation. And again, our thanks to Mick Wilz.